You know the name, you know the crown, but have you ever really stopped to think about what goes into a Rolex? What are you actually paying for? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain and see what's really inside that legendary timepiece.
Right, this is the big question, isn't it? Take away the hype, the brand name, the status, what's left? What really justifies that price tag? To figure that out, we have to start where Rolex starts. And that's way before a watch is even designed.
You see, the story of a Rolex doesn't kick off with a sketch. No, it starts with the raw elements. Because Rolex is completely obsessed with controlling every single step. And that's something you almost never see in any industry.
I mean, think about this. Most companies, even luxury ones, buy their materials from suppliers. Not Rolex. They said, nope, not good enough. So they built their own foundry in Geneva. They literally become alchemists, melting and mixing their own gold to guarantee its purity from the very first spark.
And when you have that kind of control, you don't just make regular 18-karat gold. You perfect it. You create your own special blends, like their famous Everose gold. It's this unique pink gold made with a secret recipe so it won't ever fade. You can't get it anywhere else. It belongs completely to Rolex.
That's a totally fair question. I mean, most Rolexes you see are steel, right? And you'd think steel is, well, it's just steel. But this is Rolex we're talking about. They don't do just steel.
Here's the breakdown. Most watch brands use really good quality steel. Rolex uses something called 904L steel. Now, this stuff is normally used in aerospace and high-tech chemical industries because it's so incredibly tough against rust and corrosion. It's also way harder to work with, but the payoff? It can be polished to a shine and a gleam that other steels just can't touch.
So, you've got these perfect custom-made metals. Now what? How do you shape them? Well, you don't just pour them into a mold. This is about forging something with unbelievable precision.
They start with a solid chunk of that 904L steel or their own 18-karat gold. Then, these amazing computer-controlled machines start carving. They mill out the watch case, the bezel, the bracelet, all with the precision measured in microns. We're talking about a level of detail that's a fraction of the width of a human hair.
And it's easy to hear that and think, okay, so it's all automated. It's just a bunch of robots. You start to wonder if there's any human artistry left in the process at all.
And that's where you'd be totally wrong. The machines do the heavy lifting, the super precise cuts that no human could ever match. But that final, perfect finish, that iconic, mirror-like gleam you see on a Rolex, that comes from a real person, a skilled artisan spending hours polishing every single piece by hand. And get this, one single watch case is in that milling machine for over an hour before a human even lays a hand on it for the polishing part, which itself takes hours more. It's this incredible partnership between machine precision and human touch. You just can't have one without the other.
Okay, so all of that intense work was just for the outside, the case. Now we got to go deeper. We're heading inside, to the heart of the watch, the movement. This is where things get really mind-blowing. Forget those big machines we just saw. In here, it's 100% human skill. We're talking about clean rooms where highly trained watchmakers are hunched over, looking through microscopes, using tiny, delicate tools to build the watch's engine, piece by tiny piece.
And how complex is this little engine? It's a micro machine. A single Rolex movement is made of more than 200 tiny parts, and every single one is put together by hand, all having to work together perfectly.
Which leads to a pretty logical question, right? With all those little gears and springs all put together by a person, how on earth can you guarantee it's actually going to keep accurate time? There has to be some room for error.
Well, there's an official standard for that. It's called COSC certification. It's a grueling, independent 15-day test that only the top 3% of all Swiss watch movements manage to pass. Every single Rolex movement gets sent out, and it has to pass this test first. But for Rolex, that's just the warm-up.
Because after it gets COC certified, Rolex brings it back, puts the movement inside the watch case, and then tests it all over again. This time to their own crazy standard, which is more than twice as tough as the official one. They're aiming for an accuracy of plus or minus just 2 seconds a day. It's a complete obsession with being perfect.
And you'd better believe that obsession carries over to the parts you actually look at every day.
The dial, the hands, that little date window. These are not afterthoughts. They're made with the same insane level of care as the engine ticking away behind them.
Just look at the details on the dial. Those little gold hour markers, all set by hand. If there are diamonds, they're set by hand by Rolex's own gemologists. Even the tiny little Rolex crown logo is applied with microscopic precision. And that famous Cyclops lens that magnifies the date, it's not just glued on. It's a separate sapphire crystal that's laser fused to the main one. It's just next level.
So now, the watch is fully assembled. The perfect metal has been shaped, polished, and fitted with a hyper-accurate engine and a flawless face, so it's ready to ship, right? Nope, not even close. Now comes the hard part. It has to survive the gauntlet.
Before any Rolex is allowed to leave the building, it goes through a series of absolutely brutal tests. It gets shocked, it gets put in a pressurized water tank to simulate insane depths, it gets blasted with magnetic fields, and after all that abuse, its performance is still tracked for a whole week to make sure it's running within that plus or minus 2-second window.
And that's the moment it all clicks. You realize you're not paying for one thing, you're paying for all of it. The in-house gold, the fanatical hand polishing, the microscopic assembly, the double testing, this final punishing gauntlet. It's the sum of all these obsessive parts that earns it the crown.
That's it, exactly. At the end of the day, that's what you're really buying. It's not just a thing that tells you the time. It's a piece of engineering, a piece of art that stands for a century-old belief that good enough is never, ever good enough. It really makes you think, doesn't it? When you look at one now, what do you see? Do you see the price, or do you see the story? This incredible hidden legacy of perfection that was forged from scratch, completely in-house. I'll let you be the judge of that.